Hey guys, welcome back to Rossoneri TV. I'm Gio and I'm here once again for an AC Milan news live stream to give you a recap of the latest Milan news and rumors currently going on at the club. I hope everyone is having a great start to their weekend. As usual, during the weekends, there's not many news to talk about, not many updates concerning players. But today we do have some big news coming in for Jose Sosa, a player who hasn't really seen much playing time this season, besides the performance that he participated in a few days ago against Torino in the Coppa Italia. But besides that, I will be speaking about him today and about interest from several clubs, some from China, some from Turkey, and I'll also be speaking about Rodrigo Eli, as he's still being chased around by several clubs in Italy, possibly to leave on loan this winter to find some playing time. And finally, I'll give you guys an update on Luis Adriano's situation, since many people have been asking me about him. Now, getting to Jose Sosa. Like I said, there are several clubs that are currently interested in the player to possibly land him as a transfer target this winter. Earlier today, there were some news coming in from Chinese clubs, Beijing Guan and Hebei China Fortune. These are two clubs that, like I said, play in the Chinese Super League, and they apparently want or are interested in signing Jose Sosa. Like I also said before, the guy hasn't been playing a lot this season. He has made about 7 appearances, I believe, and simply speaking, he hasn't been given the chance to really showcase what he's worth. He was bought for Milan to play in front of the defense as a center mid, but we all know what happened with that. Montolivo got injured. Locatelli was given the opportunity to showcase this season what he could do, and he really took that occasion. And he became a starter for Milan. He was getting starts every game, and therefore Jose Sosa wasn't being used at all or very little. Now, it seems to be that these clubs are interested in buying him, like I said, and his agent will be in Milan next week for a meeting. Now, I don't know if this meeting is supposed to be with the club itself, Milan, to see what really their intentions are for the player going forward. Is he going to be getting playing time from now on until the end of the season or not? And it's good to see some clearances between the agent and the club themselves, because sometimes you gotta have those types of conversations between agents, players, and the club, just to see where they stand in the club. Are they gonna be getting importance? Are they gonna be getting playing time overall? Simply, are they going to be an integral part of the club? Now, recently, just a few minutes ago really, these news came in from Sky. Di Marzio reported that there's also another club that appeared to be interested in Jose Sosa, and this time it's the Turkish club Fenerbahce. Now, they told Milan that they were willing to pay 7.5 million euros for Jose Sosa, and that was exactly the price that Milan paid back in the summer when we bought him from Besiktas for 7.5 million euros. So, Fenerbahce was willing to give the same amount back to Milan if they would give him Jose Sosa, and they were actually offering Jose Sosa a contract of 2 years and a half for 5 million euros net, that is, per year, which is pretty good salaries, if you ask me, for a guy like Jose Sosa playing in the Turkish league. I wouldn't be complaining with that amount of money. But it seems to be that the player refused the offer. He wants to remain at Milan, especially after that he's been given a chance to play in that Coppa Italia tie against Torino. And, maybe he's hoping that he's going to be getting a bit more playing time now that he's shown what he's capable of, because he did have a pretty good performance against Torino. Many people were doubting him, including myself, but he actually did a quite good job in general for Milan against Torino during that Coppa Italia match. So he's hoping for more. He's hoping that Montella is giving him some confidence. He's going to be just, playing him a bit more Personally, I don't see him taking Locatelli's spot, because Locatelli, I think it's a pretty fixed piece in the team at the moment, meaning that, he's not going to lose his place in the team very easily. He's growing. He's still very young, sure. But, he has shown some very good things this season, and I don't think Montella wants to stop him from continuing on that road. So, really, it's all going to matter to see whether Milan's intentions are to keep on going with Jose Sosa or not. Maybe as a fine backup for Locatelli. Who knows? But I think everything should be cleared up very soon. Like I said before, the players' intentions are to stay at Milan, but also that depends on what Milan could offer to the player in the long run. Now, moving on, I wanted to speak about Rodrigo Eli, a guy that really hasn't been getting playing time this season. As a matter of fact, he hasn't played at all this season. And, questions need to be raised when players don't play a lot. Is it because they're just not good enough, or there's players ahead of them that are way better? And in this case, we do have some pretty good center backs ourselves at Milan. We have the likes of Romagnoli, Paletta. We even saw a very good performance from Gustavo Gomez against Torino. So Rodrigo Eli, like I was saying a few days ago, he's not really in that depth chart. At least he's not between the top 3 choices for a center back position for Montella at the moment. And you gotta value your options once again. If he wants to get playing time, he's going to need to join another club sooner or later. Now, Eli, really, he's a player that has been shipped around quite a few times in recent transfer windows. Milan has owned him for quite a bit of time, I believe, or at least they used to own him back in the days. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm trying to say here is that simply he hasn't been given a fixed opportunity at Milan. He hasn't been given, the chance to really prove himself. One, because I said before, there's players better than him in that position. And two, simply because, you can't always play everyone. Unfortunately, you have maybe like 5-6 options for center backs at a team, and only 2 of those options are going to be playing every game. So it's really difficult for a player that's not really up in the ranks with the caliber of those players to even, get a chance or get a shot in playing games. So in my opinion, Rodrigo Eli will probably leave. Like I've been saying since the beginning of January, he will probably leave this winter mercato. Possibly something could develop in the next coming weeks. Maybe in a week or 2 from now, Rodrigo Eli could leave Milan. But the teams that are currently interested in him are Crotone and Palermo. Both teams are really not doing well in the Serie A this season. And, they're going to need some players that could at least save them from relegation this season. And, maybe Rodrigo Eli could get a starting position there. He could definitely get more playing time than he currently is at Milan, because he simply didn't even get a chance to showcase anything this season. So we'll see what happens with Crotone and Palermo, but there are reports that Crotone is really having problems even communicating with players, because no one simply is attracted by the option of going to Crotone, which is understandable, of course. But we'll see what happens in the next coming days. Now, finally, I wanted to speak about Luis Adriano. A lot of people have been asking me, what is happening with Luis Adriano? You said a few weeks ago that he had to sign a contract, he had to do his medicals, but yet, Spartak Moscow still haven't made him an official announcement. Well, I do have some updates considering Luis Adriano. He did do his medicals a couple of days ago, and apparently yesterday Galliani was, or at least held a dinner with Luis Adriano, the player, and the coach of Spartak Moscow, like you can see in the picture there. And it seems to be that they're really at the final details. The signing of the contracts should be taking place on Monday. And before you know it, Luis Adriano will finally join Spartak Moscow. I'm expecting that to be done early next week. Like I said, Luis Adriano has been a bit around in recent days. He's been doing medicals. He's been watching that game, Milan-Torino at the San Siro for the Coppa Italia. And finally, he's set to leave for Russia for good this time. So we'll see what happens in the next few days. But like I said, it should be finalized in the next few days. they're really at the details. They're just missing a few final details for the actual signings of the contracts to be made. So that pretty much wraps up today's news. Like I said, usually on the weekend, there's not many crazy updates or any new, really exciting updates concerning anyone. But, getting back to what I was saying about Jose Sosa, I want to know your guys' opinion. I want to pretty much base this video on what do you think about Jose Sosa. Like I said before, Fenerbahce were offering 7.5 million euros to Milan to get the player. And Milan paid exactly that amount of money to Besiktas to sign the player. And, in my opinion, Jose Sosa hasn't been getting playing time. I think Milan will still want to keep him as a backup, just in case Locatelli, knock on wood, gets hurt or he's not capable of continuing in the season, and we're going to need a backup. Sure, we have guys like Bertolacci, but after the performance against Torino, you might consider Jose Sosa to be a decent backup. Is that the case for you guys, or would you consider actually selling him for 7.5 million euros back to Fenerbahce? Would you still consider giving Jose Sosa a shot at Milan, at least in this season? Now, another point that I wanted to make is that if we want to sign anyone in this transfer window, and I've said this for weeks and weeks and weeks, we're going to have to generate some sort of revenue. This potential sale could maybe, give us an option to sign someone in the winter mercato if we're gonna have to pay for them. So let me know really in the comment section, what do you think about today's news? Jose Sosa, is he a player that you would like him to stay at Milan, or would you want to get rid of him? Do you think Rodrigo Eli should be given a chance to move abroad, maybe to another team to get some playing time? And finally, what do you think about Luis Adriano's possible, more probable now, departure to Spartak Moscow? Was it the right move for us to get rid of him or not? So getting into your comments, a lot of you guys have already been, giving me a lot of comments on today's players that I'm speaking about. Ryan says, I have watched Eli play a handful of games and he disappointed me. Zapata is even a better choice. Now, speaking about Rodrigo Eli, I remember last season when he was given the chance, I think it was last season, when he was given a chance with Mihalovic for a few games. I remember he got sent off against Fiorentina, but he wasn't that bad overall. He was okay, he was decent. Definitely you need continuity as a player to actually, prove that you're capable of doing such things. Just because you're playing once in a while doesn't really mean that, or at least it shouldn't be an indicator that you're either good or bad. You need to show that through time. You need to show continuity. Are you capable of keeping stable performances on a weekly basis, or are you just, a one-off thing? You're going to play one good game, and then for the 7-8 games that precede that, simply you're not doing a good enough job. So, you got to consider those things as well. Rodrigo Eli, from what I saw, he was decent at times. Not the best option for us. Obviously, better than Vergara, that's for sure. That guy was just a nightmare. But, the guy's not getting playing time. Even if we do sell him, I really wouldn't be too upset since we have some pretty good options at the center back position. I'm also expecting us to make a major center back signing in the summer. Who's it going to be? I simply don't know yet. But just imagine when we do make that expensive purchase in the summer for a center back, what's Rodrigo Eli really going to do at the club? What spot or what position is he really going to get at the club? Is he going to be even capable to get any playing minutes? He's not capable of getting any time now. Imagine then. That is why, you got to consider all these options. Maybe if you could get some cash for him, a few millions, that would be nice. Even though I don't think he's going to be going away for a lot of money. But we'll see what happens with that. Carlos Truibaca says Jose Sosa could still be a good option. Still hasn't played enough for an evaluation. I completely agree. The guy's got 7 appearances, and in those 7 appearances, it's not like he's been playing the full 90 minutes. There's been times where he's been playing a few minutes, times where he's been playing a bit more, like we saw against Torino. But yeah, definitely he hasn't been giving enough playing time to really evaluate what he could do for us in the future. But, when you have a guy like Locatelli stealing the spotlight from anyone else at the club, Um, Personally, at this moment, it's very tough to say if I would get rid of Jose Sosa or not, just because we need a good backup, at least for the end of the season. If an offer maybe comes in the summer, which is equally as good as what Fenerbahce were offering Milan with the 77.5 million euros, then I would probably take it. I don't know if I would take it at this point in the season. Like you said there, I would, hopefully want to see him play a bit more this season to really give him a proper judgment, just rather than just giving him a judgment based on what we saw in those 7 little appearances. Aniket says Sosa is an okay performer at best. He should be sold. Which midfielder will we buy with the money we get in a possible sale? But they doesn't seem to be available. Yeah, but they definitely isn't available. I think he was going for 10 to 12 million euros. But like you said, I personally don't think that Jose Sosa will be getting sold this winter. The player refused the offer. And it's a pretty good offer from Fenerbahce. Like I said before, 2.5 year contract worth 5 million euros net to the player. Those are amazing wages for a championship that is not equally as good as the Serie A, for example. But like I said, I don't think anything's gonna happen with Jose Sosa. Maybe if a big offer comes from China, as we have seen in recent times with many players, China has been offering crazy amounts of money to these players to join them and pay them, I don't know how much on a yearly basis, but really crazy amounts. Maybe that's really the only way that he could leave. But we'll see what happens. Personally, I don't think he's going to be accepting anything this winter. I think he wants to see how the rest of the season will develop for him at Milan, and then he's going to make a final judgment in the summer. YY says, Sosa's like Vanjoni. They need more playing time to show their worth, especially Vanjoni, but Sosa is okay. Not too great, but he does a decent job when called upon. How much money can we expect for Sosa? 10 million is a good deal. Well, like I said, 7.5 million euros is what Fenerbahce was offering, and the player said no. Any news about Coziello? Gio, says Giuliano. Yeah, I did speak about Coziello yesterday. If you guys haven't watched yesterday's video, I did speak about him yesterday, but for now, like I said, it was just reports coming in from various sources saying that Fassone and Mirabelli are doing an European tour to see what potential targets they can land in the summer, and it appears to be that Coziello, the 21-year-old midfielder for Nice, is one of these options. Cesar says, sell him. Some reports say 10 million has been offered from China. I hope there isn't a knee-jerk reaction to purchase a player right away, but they may be good, but it feels like a stopgap measure. And like I said, but they may be good, definitely, but what future will he have at the club, Will he be taking Locatelli's place for the long run, and Locatelli won't be getting much playing time? These are all things that you have to ask yourselves, because at the moment we do need some better starters in certain positions, and I'm not neglecting that at all. But also for the players that seem to be fixed at the team, like Locatelli, what would the future, provide for him, given a signing like Bade? Would he be given, barely any playing time, or will he be equally as used? These are all things that you got to consider. Serial Killer says, I was really expecting more from Sosa, considering him winning the league with Besiktas and lifting the team by himself. Even though he is 31 years old, I think he is talented, but I'm disappointed. Like I said, once again, the guy hasn't been getting much playing time, but from what I've seen, he's okay. He's not the player that we were hoping him to be. Obviously, I wasn't saying that he's going to be the next Pirlo or whatever, but, I was expecting something better from Jose Sosa. He hasn't really shown much in the little time that he has played. But yeah, I was definitely expecting more myself. We'll see what happens with him. I don't really see him being a lengthy option for Milan in the future. I don't think he's going to be staying at the club for much time. If an offer like 7.5 is coming from Fenerbahce, like some of you are already stating, imagine the offers coming from several Chinese clubs. What are they going to be offering? 15, 20 million? Who knows? Ryan says, Gio, have you seen Pato lately putting in a good performance against teams like Barca, Milan return? I honestly haven't been paying attention to La Liga in a very long time. And I haven't been seeing his performances, but that's very good for him. I'm happy for him. A Milan return, I'm not quite sure about that. I don't think Milan is thinking about bringing back Pato, at least for now. And someone's telling me that there is an update considering Inter losing to Chievo 1-0. Well, Inter merda, that's all I have to say about that. Aniket, Gio, if we have 100 million, I would spend it on Brandt, Bernadeschi, Caio, and Bade. Out Niang, Poli, and Zapata for 30 million. Keep back until 2018, then Belotti. Not quite sure if we could generate 30 million with Niang, Poli, and Zapata, to be honest with you. Very unlikely. But those are definitely very good targets. I would probably even bring in Keita if I had the option of 100 million. Maybe Bernardeschi and Keita would be amazing. You know, amazing even starters, or even to have backups for Bonaventura or Suso playing on those wings. Nick says Montella should start the trio of Bonaventura, Baca, and Suso, and the backup being Niang, Lapadula, and Deulofeu. I definitely agree with you. I like that a lot. I definitely like Bonaventura, Baca, and Suso starting games. Bonaventura and Suso on those wings, I think it's a must for Milan to start them every game if we are capable of. The backups, I definitely agree with what you said. If Deulofeu comes in, he could be a definitely good backup for Suso. And, Niang should be used as a backup at this point. When you compare Bonaventura and Niang in that position, you can clearly tell that Bonaventura is the man to watch. You know, the guy has been getting assists, goals. He's been doing everything for Milan so far this season. Niang, on the other hand, a good start, but a very shaky afterwards. Giuliano says, imagine Milan will win every time against Torino and Juve this season. That would be amazing. I guess we could be the Turin Destructors. That'll be a nice nickname for us. But give me some more questions if you guys want me to answer. I'm going to be on for the next few minutes. So if you guys want anything me to answer, I'm going to be answering that. But Inter losing, that is definitely a good sight to watch. You know, they were 3 points behind us just before this game. And if they lose this game, we're still going to have 2 games in hand on them. So definitely very good to see. Let's see and hope that Kiev will keep it up. Joaquin Vida says, do you think Milan will go for Musacchio? Musacchio's still one of the targets, you know. A few people are saying, or were saying, are we done with Musacchio? This guy is always getting injured. Do you still see him as a target for Milan? It seems to be that Fassone and Mirabelli are still after the player, and they still want to make him a signing for maybe the summer. I don't know if he's one of the better options for us to have as a center back, but he's definitely on the short list, or on the wish list rather, for Fassone and Mirabelli to sign for the center back position this summer. Thielsmann, he's a real target. I haven't really heard much of Thielsmann from official reports, so at the moment, no, he is not. Imagine Sucri says, Lorenzo Pellegrini, do you rate this guy? I haven't watched much of him, to be honest with you. I haven't really watched much of him. I think that there's a lot of players that we are considering at the moment. There's a big list of players in which, I think we need to cut down a bit, because even though we're looking at youngsters, we're looking at potential targets to replace or be backups in the future seasons, we're definitely looking at a lot of players. And Lorenzo Pellegrini, definitely a young Italian player that could play well for Milan. But there's also a lot of other options that we might consider. So are we going for an Italian midfielder? Are we going for an experienced midfielder, even though he's not Italian? These are things to take note of in the future. And at the moment, we're still very, very far away from the summer transfer window. And even though I'm equally as excited as you guys, we're going to see at least another 10, 20 names being thrown in by the time the summer hits. And, Fassone and Mia Bailey simply have to do their evaluations from now on then. Zaid says, Gio's Belotti a possible transfer in the winter or the summer? Or is it an impossible thing to bring him? It's definitely not an impossible thing to bring him for the summer. In the winter, yes, we're not going to get him, that's for sure. But in the summer, he has signed a contract extension. And many people are asking me, does he have a clause? Does he have a clause on him that will not enable him to be signed by a Serie A team? The clause is only applicable to teams outside of Italy, meaning that if a team from either England, Spain, or Germany, for example, want to sign Belotti, they're going to have to pay Torino 100 million euros just to release him. And that's a privilege that Serie A clubs don't have, and I guess that's a kind of option to keep these players, these Italian players, in the league, playing for the league. And I'm happy certain things like that are being taken care of, to keep the Italian players in Italy playing in the Serie A rather than ruining their careers elsewhere. But Belotti has a bright future ahead of him. I'm expecting him to be Italy's forward for a long time coming, but I wouldn't really exclude the possibility of him coming in the summer. If the money comes for him, then maybe Milan, Torino can negotiate something. But a lot of fans are true believers. Personally, I don't think that Belotti will be a realistic purchase for us in the summer. I think we'll go for other players, especially considering the fact that he just renewed a contract. Sure, we've seen times where players have renewed contracts and then they left a few weeks later. But, I think Belotti's going to stay at Torino for a bit more time. Finally, one more question maybe. Luca says, I heard something about Insigne. Is it true? It was on MilanNews.it. Milan News is a good source, very good source. And I did read something regarding Insigne. But to be honest with you, I don't think it's anything really concrete. A lot of times they are, even on MilanNews.it, there are reports coming in from some unreliable sources. There's even Tutto Sport being mentioned on Milan News sometimes. So I wouldn't really, kind of go with the idea that Milan are going after Insigne. Definitely, I think he could be a target for Milan. But at the moment, there's nothing really concrete with him going on. Do I envy the squad that Inter has? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why would you envy Merda? I would never envy Merda. Never. And hopefully they lose against Kiev today. I'll be really happy. Christy, maybe this is going to be the last question. Do you think that Donnarumma will move in the future? That's a big question. A really big question, because I think it all depends on his agent. His agent is a guy that I don't really like. But I think it really all depends on his agent, and also depends when the Chinese takeover takes place, because Milan and even Galliani has mentioned it. A lot of the contract renewals are waiting for the Chinese approval, or at least when they take over the club. And I think we'll know the future regarding Donnarumma in about 2 to 3 months from now. I really hope that there's going to be a big release clause on him, and that he signs a very lengthy contract with Milan. This guy is the future. I mean, I don't have to say it myself, but he is the next big goalkeeper in the world. And, I really can't imagine Milan doing without Donnarumma. I will love to keep this guy for the end of my life. I will want to see this guy until the day I die, if I could have, because he's so amazing. But we're all going to really find out what's going to happen with Donnarumma in 2 to 3 months. Like I said before, the guy that really pisses me off is Mino Raiola, his agent. The guy, all he thinks about is money. He doesn't care about loyalty to clubs or anything else. But I think Donnarumma has a bigger brain than that. He knows that Milan is where his heart really is. And he's always wanted to play for us from the very young age. From a very young age. And there were also reports of him saying, his father had already closed the deal with Inter back in the days. And then he even told his father, I don't want to go to Inter, I want to go to Milan. And for me, things like that really speak volumes for players' future, or at least, their thoughts on joining a club and staying at a club for the long time. I think this really speaks volumes when a player says that. So, if he made that decision from the early times in his career, I think that his heart is at Milan, and he will want to stay at Milan for a very long time. I think that's going to wrap it up, guys, for today. Thank you all for your questions. Hopefully, I kept you guys updated with the latest news and rumors currently going on at Milan. Like I said, not much going on in the weekends usually, but I also wanted to give you a little timeline of what's to come in the next few days on Rossoneri TV. Of course, tomorrow we'll be having the Torino against AC Milan match preview, which will be played on Monday. That match will be played at the Stadio Olimpico. It is the first match of the second half of the season for Milan. Obviously, Milan still have a game to recuperate. That will be taking place in February against Bologna. But yeah, so tomorrow I will be having the match preview for Torino Milan, and on Monday we will be having the live stream watch along throughout the game, followed by the match review. So on that note, guys, thank you all for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like on the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with everything going on at AC Milan on a daily basis. We got plenty of content for you guys coming up. We got daily videos coming up for you guys, whether it's transfer news or rumors, or match previews and reviews and so forth. We got it all year to cover AC Milan on a daily basis. So I'll be seeing you tomorrow for another video. Hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend. On that note, Forza Milan. I'll see you guys tomorrow.